the Trotwood-Madison City School District work session, February 6, 2020, to order here at the Trotwood-Madison City School Board offices. Mrs. Allen, will you call the roll?
Yes, Mrs. Bozeman?
Yes.
Mr. Scares?
Yes.
Mrs. Jeter Freeman?
Yes.
And Ms. Moore?
Yes. The meeting has been called to order. Please join us for a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I now need a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
I'll move.
I'll second.
It's been properly moved, and we have a second. Any additions, changes?
No.
Being none, Ms. Allen, will you call the roll?
Mrs. Jeter Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Scares?
Yes.
Mrs. Bozeman?
Yes.
And Ms. Moore?
Yes, the agenda has been adopted. Next up, we have presentations. So, and that is recognition of our 2019 football season.
Okay.
Superintendent? Yep.
Y'all got it.
That's where I'm going to need you guys' help,
Yes.
all right?
Y'all got it.
Okay. Well, first of all, we just want to say good evening and thank you for being here with us tonight and braving the weather. So, we are so excited. It's always exciting when we can recognize and acknowledge our students for their achievements. And tonight, we have the honor and the pleasure of doing so. And I'm going to get started with understanding, I tell you, the leaders of the pack determine the speed. So given that, I want to, first of all, bring our coaches up. We'll start with Darren Bird. Is he here? Okay. Oh, it's not. I'm just going by the list. Okay, this is what, okay. Next, Coach Graham. Please come on up. Yeah, I was going by the list. David Clark. Ron Dolphin. Jarrell Freeman. Corey Gaston Amy. Derek Gilbert. Yeah. Carrie Ivy. Greg Moore. Ed Mucha. Jordan Pascal. Chris Townsend. Trayvon Williams Brown. And John Wortham. Let's give all our coaches a huge, how about a standing ovation? What I'd like to do, Coach Friend?
Yes.
I'd like you to say a few words about your team of coaches, as well as our student athletes, and about the season. What the season looked like, what you guys were up against, and how we prevailed. All right, thank you.
Well, first of all, everybody's laughing because everybody know I don't like to speak, but I'm not a good person when it comes to this. But about our coaches, I have to really thank those guys for what they do, the time they spend, the effort that they put in. We have countless hours. I don't know if you know our schedule, but we start kind of like in January with the weightlifting and go all the way through the spring and the summer. And so our coaches participate in as much things that goes on in our program. We have our summer camps. We travel to a bunch of different colleges. We take our kids and give them opportunity to go out there and showcase their abilities and their talents. and to give them a chance to get on the school's radar so coaches can meet them, see them in person, see how they conduct, see their work ethic, see their size, see their style, and also, of course, the athletics, as far as them performing at their position of choice. When we noticed going into training camp, our numbers were down. We kind of were putting our fingers together and hoping that our kids would somehow come out to play football. But we decided that the kids that we had with us, we had a great nucleus of seniors that was coming back. So we felt good with those guys coming and being able to lead our team, and they did a great job. So the only thing we kind of did was put those guys in position to make plays and do the things that they do well. Start off the season, our season started off with a loss. I think that's probably one of our second worst loss we ever had in my tenure here at Trotwood as far as being the head coach. We kind of had to regroup as a team, as a coaching staff, and we all had to look in the mirror to say, hey, where do we go from here, and how do we make a change? And so we started just going every day, working hard, and doing the things that we had to do to get better. And we were running off 7 in a row, so that gave us a lot of confidence. Of course, you guys know we were playing against in a new conference where it was a Division I, so it was a great challenge for us, and I think our kids really accepted that challenge, and coaches as well. So we ended up losing the last 2, which I think gave us the opportunity to regroup again to kind of figure out which direction we really wanted to go into the playoffs. And everybody know once you get a chance to get in the playoffs, the record's 0-0. It's your last game. You lose, you're out. So I think with the experience and the leadership of our team and our seniors, I think those guys been there and done that before, understood the magnitude of what we were trying to do. So we just wanted to do it one game at a time, and ultimately we were able to go to the state and win the state championship. So but it was a great journey. We learned a lot, and also I think it molded our kids to understand that they can achieve and overcome adversity. I mean, with the tornado and the different things that we all went through as a community, I think that really mold those guys to become young men. And as far as students, I think we have some of the greatest students on our team, as far as what I know, that they do the schoolwork. And we kind of monitor their grades during the week. We have grade sheets to go out every week to try to monitor what the kids doing, what their attitudes. Teachers have information to get in contact with me, with our other coaches that are in the building. So I think that really helps us, really helps our program. So that's us, and I really appreciate everything. I hope I answered all your questions.
Absolutely. Let's give the coaches a hand. So, again, we are so honored. We are so proud. We are so excited about the work that you guys have done this year and every year. And on behalf of the Trotwood-Madison City Schools, we have a certificate of recognition for you. First of all, Trotwood-Madison City School Board of Education recognizes, and this is for you, Coach Graham, Jeff Graham, for his outstanding coaching, leadership, and guidance during the 2019 football season. Signed, the Board of Education. Thank you. Ms. Jeter-Freeman has other certificates? Okay.
Well, I think,
And then basically, they're all for the coaches.
I'm gonna let Coach Graham
Okay.
pass out the awards to his coaches.
Okay.
I think. and because if you want to say something, I was at the high school. I just want to say these few words. And when you were introducing the players, and the one thing a lot of the players said, some of them were new, but they said it was hard work. Some of them wanted to quit, but they were family. So the theme through the players that played this season, they said it was hard work. Some of them wanted to give up, but they stuck with it because they were a family and that the coaches had them. So it's a team. It's a team effort. And to the coaches, thank you for that, especially to you, Coach Graham. Thank you for leading.
Okay, the next gentleman I'm gonna bring up is Derek Gilbert. Derek is our receivers coach. Derek came to us his first year. He really came out and exercised everything that we wanted him to do with our young receivers, and also try to mold some of those young receivers to be good. And he really took the challenge and went out and performed, and him and Coach Free and Coach Corey, all three of those guys do a great job with our receiver corps. So Derek Gilbert, here you go, sir. I think I had these many coaches, huh?
My coaches here.
Well, the weather is bad. We
Yeah.
recognize that, and, yeah.
Okay. The next coach is Jarrell Freeman. Coach Freeman and I have been together for, almost 8 years now? Eight now? About 8, 9 years. We know each other's mannerism. Coach Free is a receiver coach. We both are former receivers, so we both can bounce things off each other. He does a great job with leadership and with our kids at the wide receiver position and also other positions. Coach Free, former head coach as well, former Trotwood-Madison. That's the biggest thing that I think I like with our coaching staff, is that our coaches either graduated from Trotwood, played for Trotwood, either coached at Trotwood. Try to keep that family oriented so people can understand, because a lot of times people don't understand what we do and how we do it, but I'm glad that I'm able to be a part of this. I didn't graduate from Trotwood, but yet and still I am a Ram.
Congratulations.
What's that?
And our,
Next coach is Trey Williams-Brown. Like we spoke before, Trey is our defensive coordinator. Trey played here. Trey was on the 2011?
2011 state champion.
Yeah, he was on the 2011 state championship. So he played here at Trotwood, graduated here at Trotwood, went on to college, student athlete, went on, graduated. And I think that's something that we need to start here at Trotwood, is something to show our former student athletes that went on to college, whether if they made it to the NFL or not, they come back with a degree, and they come back to try to help our young men, to mold our young men. So I think that would be something that we all should be looking to try to do, because I think that'll show people that, Trotwood, people say a lot of things about our athletics and our academics, but yet and still, we still prevailing in all sports and all students, and people are still going to college and graduating. So that's the beautiful part about it. Like I said, I want to appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that's it.
yeah, you all come on around.
I think that's it as far as my coaches. That's it for coaches.
We get to get to the fun stuff. That's
Oh,
what our
players?
team. Yes.
Oh.
Okay, well, not good.
Okay. have a couple guys
Well,
here.
you know what, we'll acknowledge those couple guys, and you can literally just call them up, and then we'll have you take this with you.
Yes, ma'am.
And I will read exactly what it
Okay.
is we're doing
All right,
for the
let's do it.
students, okay? Next up would be our amazing Running Rams team. Again, let's give them a hand for an incredible, amazing season. And on behalf of the Board of Education, Trotwood-Madison City School Board of Education recognizes each and every player for his participation, sportsmanship, and outstanding achievement in football during the 2019 season. On behalf of the board, we congratulate you, and we are so proud. Thank you. And Coach, whoever's here.
Can the players come on up? I think we have a couple players here. Make you say your name, what grade you're in, position you play. Come on.
Great season.
I'm gonna make you say your name. What year
Great
you on?
season. Thank you for coming out.
What position you play.
Great season.
I'm gonna make you say your name, what position. What grade you?
Hi, everybody. My name is Malachi Oglesby. This is my senior season at Trotwood. I've been playing for 4 years. I play offensive line, defensive line, fullback. And I appreciate y'all for congratulating us tonight. It's a blessing to be here. I just want to say thank you.
Hi everybody. My name is Chris Devons. This is my first year at Trotwood. I feel great getting a state championship for my first year, and I just hope it's more to come.
Hi everyone, my name is Javen Walker. I just want to say thank you everybody for congratulating us on the state win. That's all. Well, that's it.
Hey y'all, my name is Jaron Walker, and I am a linebacker, and I also play center sometimes, but I was like a backup. But yeah, that's all I have to say.
Good year. How you like it?
My name is Quentin Davis. I play linebacker, safety, corner. I'm a senior. Thank you for having us out here today and recognizing us for winning state for the city.
Now, Coach, I understand you had a couple managers on the team,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
All right. They're here this evening?
We have any managers? Nope, they're not here.
We can recognize them.
Okay. Vanessa was one, and Alicia Boykin and Vanessa Sample. They do a great job with our kids, and they help CJ out a lot. So he really, CJ's really one of those tough trainers that really want them to understand the craft of being a trainer, not just being in a position to be there. He wants them to, if you want to go on to college, he wants to teach them the skills and mindset of what it takes to become a trainer. So he does a great job with those young ladies.
Wonderful. And for those young ladies, the
Okay.
Board of Education wants to recognize them for their outstanding participation and support during the 2019 football season. So thank you.
So I guess I'll call up the cheer coaches if they're here. Brittany Foster and Melissa, is it Bison? Are they either here? No? Okay, I guess that I'm the cheer coaches, right? Are there any cheerleaders here? No? Okay.
All out cheering.
All out cheering, okay. So I'll just read what each one of those cheerleaders will be receiving. It's the Trotwood-Madison City Schools Certificate of Recognition. Trotwood-Madison City Schools Board of Education recognizes each and every one of those young ladies for their outstanding participation and support during the 2019 football season. Yay! All right.
So what we'll do, we'll get a photo, if that's okay. Are there any parents in the audience? Please join us. Thank you for allowing us to take care of your student. Maybe we can all get real tight. We'll tell them. Just hold it up here. I'm not trying to read or anything. This is good. Just kind of like this. Let's give our students a hand. Thank you, Janice.
You're welcome. It was all.
Hey, Janice, do we have the refreshments in the break room? Okay, we'll take a break. Okay. Yeah. Before you guys leave, we have refreshments for you. So we are going to take a short break, and we would love for you to have some refreshments and just join in on the celebration of our amazing team and our students and coaches.
Ryan Nelson.
Oh, yeah. I couldn't tell who it was. Good to see you, man.
I'm good. How are you?
Alan, how are you?
I'm good. And Martin, there's a website. This guy, he's called, his name is Meathead or something. But he thought his ribs were like worthy of winning the competition. And he went to a couple competitions and he didn't get the top 5. So he's been working on his craft and now he's actually winning. And he got all these good tips and stuff. But it's been, yeah, when I find the website, I'll send it to you. But he has, from the rubs he uses, and he says, well, this is the difference between competition and, you know, I think my rubs are the best anyway. Everybody does. But he has some really good ideas, some things I didn't even think of. No, just like there's the whole thing of letting the meat rest versus he said that, you know, sometimes it's not necessary. But he had one thing that he does where he takes the meat and he puts salt on it. He calls that a dry brine, as opposed to, you know how like they leave it in water with, so he puts sea salt on it for like 30 to 45 minutes, which softens it. And you know, like your little trick with the vinegar that breaks it down further, but he got a whole process. I was like, you know, I've seen that. And he said it doesn't really make the meat saltier. You know, there's all little things, you know, you just gotta, like working on the craft. You just gotta try and mess up some of them. But one thing I learned living at home, I don't even go past 300 anymore. If I'm gonna eat something, I'm gonna eat at 7, I put it at about 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and let it sit there for 3 hours. And monitor what you put on past 300. Huh? Yeah, something quick. even with hot dogs, I do onions, a lot of seasoning, and sometimes stuff because that holds the moisture and you don't want it to mix. So there's one method I want to try that they call the snake method, where you have catch the coals around. I want to do that with some ribs to see if I can keep it at like 225 or something. But it's hit or miss because I'm thinking like 225, 275.
Springfield. Just more passive.
I'd be nervous that it's going to stop. You know what I mean? And then I come back and I guess that's why you got to
He just.
Oh, we're knocking everything over. That's just how we do it. Good to see you, boy.
I've been doing good.
Absolutely. Say hi.
Thank you. I appreciate all of it. Thank you.
How you doing, sir? Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that.
You know that. You know how to get I'm good.
Me too.
Yeah.
What were you doing out there? Oh, so you were there after the sack. And then you had to come back to this. Did you stay downtown? Where'd you stay?
No, we didn't stay. We stayed way
I was. I mean.
Did they win?
Yeah.
The second part comes into it's 2 parts.
I'm gonna have to pay attention.
So do they first travel? Is it part of travel?
Yeah.
No, it's travel.
How he got so caught up in that lifestyle.
Really? I'm gonna check it out.
Really, really good.
But I used to work with this wife. She used to work to Sinclair, but we don't work together anymore. And she's like a dog lover and all that. And she was like, and still man. I'm like, get over it. He did his time.
And they talk about that. They talk about how he got involved. It's interesting.
I'm gonna check it out. I love those stories. It's just like, get over it. He did his time.
And he's contributing back.
Yeah, let it go. Get over it.
It's a lot deeper than you just perceive.
Yeah.
Somebody gets caught up in that lifestyle.
And then I was watching that Aaron Hernandez thing on Netflix. You see that? I never knew. I know. I never knew any of that. That was weird.
That was almost spooky.
I mean, I never knew any of that.
I don't know how true. There's his fiance is testing.
Oh, is she really? Yeah, I just was like, never knew that. I was just like, and then I had to even, my husband was, we were watching, I said, wait a minute, what? Did that, And he was like, yeah, that's what they said. I was just like, wait a minute.
That came out.
He was like, that's what they're saying. I'm like, wait a minute. Did I miss something? Because I left the room for like a second. I was like, did I miss something?
It was funny. I said, we don't have any papers, and then my board member doesn't like this.
So when I was like, you take your money, make your money.
Hi, good to see you.
Yes, you went with Morgan Stanley. The organization doesn't want to money. So I had to find another vehicle.
Is it because of the
We had to have $25 million
I haven't.
was like, okay.
Girl. Money. Do you think you forgot?
I'm like, where is this?
Has anybody talked to Mr. Andrews?
No, I was just asking Myron.
I hadn't. Janice,
I'm sorry.
did you get anything from Mr. Andrews?
I hope he's okay.
About it. Hey, girl, it's fine back again.
Okay.
I was thinking that, Marlon, but I didn't.
We're going to go ahead and reconvene. You guys ready? All right, because the roads are kind of getting bad, so we're going to get through the agenda pretty quickly. All right? Next up, we have Red Tree Investments, Mr. Ryan Nelson.
And also, I'd like to introduce Joe Violand.
Yeah, I'm Joe Violand.
Joe Violand, all right.
Ryan Nelson just stepped down the hall for 1 minute.
Okay,
I didn't think he was going to.
And you knew that as soon as I call his name,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So we'll all just stare at him as he comes all the
Yes.
way back.
We'll all clap.
We'll tell him that he missed it.
So
Look,
I
you
gave the
did it all.
presentation when he came back.
No worries.
Okay. Oh, there he is. There he is. Stare at him.
Miss Allen, why don't you share a little bit about
Yes.
Red Tree?
Red Tree Investments, we had at the finance meeting, Ryan came and talked to the finance meeting. The reason why we're reaching out to Red Tree Investments is, one, is our Morgan Stanley investments that were $5 million, they are now liquidating all of our assets in Morgan Stanley. They're liquidating the assets because they are getting away from the smaller investments under 25 million, and we only have 5 million. So I wanted to look for another vehicle that we can invest some money. We haven't figured out how much. We'll probably start about $2 million, see how they do, and then we'll we'll evaluate every year after that. And so Ryan, I've seen him the last 8 to 10 years probably at various conferences that I go to. Have always been impressed by his presentation. They always have Ryan to do the higher level investment presentations because all of the treasurers have to get at least six credit hours of CPM credit. He does a lot of business with Montgomery County treasurers and Montgomery County districts, and also he has other districts that he does business with. So I wanted him to come tonight to explain what they do, how they do it, and answer a couple questions from the Finance Committee meeting a couple weeks ago that they had questions at that time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Welcome.
Well, thank you very much. And good evening. First and foremost, I would like to start by saying congratulations to the school district here and the football team for the recent state championship win. It's very humbling to follow a presentation like that. So congratulations to all. My name is Ryan Nelson with Red Tree Investment Group. Also, I'm an associate with me here, Joe Violand. And thank you, Janice, for the introduction there. I do believe Janice had some information in the board packet there. We're not big on bringing paper to meetings, so try to keep that to a minimum. Just want to give a brief overview about Red Tree Investment Group and who we are and how long we've been in the business and things like that. We're an investment advisor, and our sole focus is working with public entities across the state of Ohio, primarily schools. This marks my 19th year in this business. And we assist on over 150 Ohio schools, and we manage a little over $4 billion here in the state of Ohio. Janice mentioned that we do work with many districts close to Trotwood here in the Montgomery County area, many of them neighboring the borders here, including Northmont and the Miami Valley Career Center, which I drove past today coming here, and they're moving along with their construction up there, so kudos to them up there on that. As Janice mentioned here, she was thrown a curveball when Morgan Stanley called and said that they did not want smaller investment accounts. It wasn't just a picking on Trotwood. This was a national thing that they were making a change on. And Janice and I had been here several times before, helping Janice with some other items in the past, and she thought it was maybe a time for us to start to work together on a portion of the district's assets. We would serve as an investment advisor for the school district and working with Janice on what makes sense to invest. Right now, we would be looking at the portion that's already invested at Morgan Stanley, just taking over the investment of those funds. Nothing would be sold. It would just be simply a transfer of assets. You may see in some of the literature, there's agreements. There's an investment advisory agreement with Red Tree where we would serve as the investment advisor for the school district. And along with that, there's something, it's called a custody agreement with U.S. Bank. And what does that mean? U.S. Bank serves as a third-party custodian of the funds. And as an investor, that's what you want. You want to have an investment advisor in the school district, and you want someone that sits in the middle so that they're watching over the funds as well. So Janice is going to be receiving two statements. She'll get a statement from us, and she'll get a statement from U.S. Bank to assure that all the numbers match and nothing can be made up. So as an investor, it is best practice to have a third-party custodian. We work off of an assets under management fee basis, and our fees are based on what we are actually managing back in our office. And right now, the Morgan Stanley portfolio, Janice, I looked at the December statement, it was right around $3 million. Is that correct? I know you had said some things that maybe in maturing, but if we were just looking at a $3 million portfolio that we were assisting on, given the fee structure, that is would be an annual fee of $3,000. But we are working with Janice on, this district already owns the securities, so there's no reason to charge a fee on something you already own. So we're not charging any fees until something would actually mature. So you may not see any fees at all this year on that. So it's a great deal for the school district out there, and as we move forward. I am one of the co-owners of Red Tree Investment Group and would be the main contact for Janice out there. And as Janice mentioned, we are quite active in the education for her credit hours out there across the state. I included here in your packet, I did include a bunch of the school districts that we do work with here in the Montgomery County area. And I do believe from the Finance Committee you had a couple of questions about returns from other districts out there. And I went back and looked at it, kind of pulled them all up, and it's really difficult to put an exact number on it because like the Miami Valley Career Center, for example, has been a client of mine since 2001. And the investments there look a lot different than like a Northmont that we invested a couple of years ago. So it's hard to say, to pick something out, and I don't like to cherry pick, to say, oh, well, this one looks beautiful over here, that's what we should show. But I did just pull those two at Northmont because I figured that was just right down the road from you folks, and then I know that you are on the board over at Miami Valley Career Center. And Janice, you could back these numbers up with where the market is today, but the Northmont Schools is earning around a 260 on a yield. And the Miami Valley Career Center is around a 215, and again, that's just based on how we invested funds. And Janice, as you know, you've been investing the district's funds over the past couple of years, and those rates, look pretty good out there. Every school district, not only here in Montgomery County, but across the state of Ohio, they all have the same investment parameters, but they all come up a little bit different about their risk tolerances and cash flows. Everybody is a little bit different out there, and the funds need to be invested a little bit different out there. As Janice invests funds, she has an investment policy statement that's approved by the board, and she has three main investment objectives: safety of principal, liquidity, and a market rate of return. Janice, myself, or none of you all are ever going to be in the newspaper for earning an extra penny. But Janice, myself, and you all will all be in the paper if we lose a penny. So we have to keep that in mind as we're investing funds out there and not put return over safety of principal. So those are the overriding factors as we invest funds. The steps on this as we move forward, I see that it's on the Treasurer's report up there with the advisory agreement and the U.S. Bank agreement, and I'm going to hang around here in case we have any questions later on that. And then the next steps would be here in the coming month or so, the assets that are currently at Morgan Stanley would simply just lift up and move to U.S. Bank. It's a very simple, seamless process that we do quite often out there for school districts. That's all I have prepared tonight. Did I answer your questions the other night from the Finance Committee?
I know there was a question around whether or not we were transferring everything. Is that still up in the air?
Yes, we're going to, we have to, for Morgan Stanley, once it starts to liquidate, we're going to move it over to Red Tree.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So everything?
So, well, okay, I see what you're saying. We have $3.3 million.
Right.
My initial reaction was around $2 million, but we'll look at that as the investments mature.
And then the other 1.3 will go back to the general
Yes,
fund?
yes.
Okay.
And when is it going to be effective, the transfer?
As soon as, I mean, we can probably start the process even tomorrow or next week. And like I said, when those investments start to liquidate, then we can move that money over to Red Tree.
And in the event that once the remaining 1.3 goes back to the general fund, and then say, yeah, we want to invest the other 1.3, then we would pay fees on the new invested
You are
money.
correct. You are correct. And that is something, and I like to put this, the school district is hiring us to be the investment advisor for the school district. You're just not hiring us to be put over in the corner just to look at this little pot of money over here. We're here to help out. We're here to work with Janice on what is a proper investment allocation for all the funds of the school district, be that at the local banks or whatever, not just what we are looking at back in the office out there. So this is a much more of a all-encompassing role than maybe Janice has been used to in the past with her current providers out there.
So then I think my next question would be then, if the goal is if we transfer just the two with no possibility of fees because we only gain fees on technically new money, then wouldn't it be cheaper for us to just transfer the entire 3.3?
We'll have to look at the maturities. Some of them mature, from the last time I looked at that, mature here in February and March.
Okay.
So it's something we'll just have to look at when we get, depending on the timing of it.
And then today I had a meeting with two treasurers, one from Eaton and one from Miamisburg. And I think you work with Tina.
We work with Rachel at Eaton.
Okay, yeah, Rachel. And Rachel indicated to me that you guys also invest in commercial paper. And I remember when we decided to invest with Huntington Bank in commercial paper. So that might be another avenue that I need to talk to Ryan about in terms of either a short-term investment strategy.
You're going to be hearing from me a lot, Janice.
So, Mr. Scares, to answer your question, we may decide to move the entire amount depending on if it makes financial sense to do that.
Any other questions?
You guys are out of Cincinnati?
We are in Cincinnati.
Okay, we're in Cincinnati. And how long has Red Tree been?
So Red Tree has been a standalone business for the past 5 years. This marks my 19th year in this business. I've worked with a couple different investment firms. As you know, in the investment service business, sometimes firms sell and move around and change names. And ironically, I used to work with Trotwood Schools back years ago. I worked for a firm called Season Good and Mayer, and we actually issued the debt for the high school. And then I invested the debt proceeds back when they built the high school, and Diana Witt was the treasurer here. And I remember the old board office, or whatever street that was, way over there. What was that? Diana burnt some popcorn the day I was there, and everybody was mad at her because you could smell it throughout the building. So I do have some history here with the school district over the years. I can't believe when you told me the other day when that high school was built. It seems like yesterday. So our business, myself and Jennifer Trowbridge own the firm. This niche market of just working with public entities just works better for being in a boutique shop out there. Did that answer your question, Ms. Moore?
Yes, it did. Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you.
No, thank you for your time. And again, I'm going to
presentation.
be here for the rest of the presentation in case you have questions on when she brings it up for
Okay.
discussion. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have any community comments?
I
Ms.
do
Allen?
not.
All right.
We do.
Yes, we do. Okay.
Dr. Graham?
Yeah. So, okay.
I'm gonna go.
Why don't you get a
keep going.
form? Yeah, and then she can fill that out afterwards. Good evening.
Good evening. It was a little difficult to hear. Did you say go ahead now?
Yes,
Or-
please.
Okay. So good evening. My name is Dr. Daria Yvonne Jackson Graham. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you this evening. I requested to speak with you because I have recently found myself at a crossroads as it relates specifically to my son's education. I want to share just quickly a little bit about myself and my family to provide the context of my concerns and my actions on my son's behalf. My mother's name is Denise Jackson, and my father is Reverend John Jackson, Jr. My mother is a graduate of Dunbar High School, and although she was top in her class, it was 1968, and like many women and women of color, she was told not to pursue a college degree, that she wasn't college material, and followed the suggestion that she find a trade. 20 years later, my father encouraged her to pursue her degree, and she earned an associate's degree from Sinclair and her bachelor's from Capital. Along with being a pastor in Dayton for nearly 40 years, my father believed that education was essential and necessary to a successful life, and worked for nearly 40 years in the Dayton public school system. My father was so adamant about education that he actually chose my major as education in undergraduate school, and was furious at graduation when he found out that I had snuck and changed my major to business and would not be a teacher as he intended. Although he is battling Alzheimer's disease and dementia, the only words I've heard him utter in the past few years was "I told you so" when I told him I had earned my doctorate in education at the University of Dayton. I believe it's my parents' experience and commitment to education that has fueled my own education, as I have earned all 3 of my degrees at the University of Dayton in my 20-year career in higher education, as I serve as the Associate Dean of Students and the Executive Director of the Multi-Ethnic Education and Engagement Center at UD. Again, I share this story as context to my philosophy of education for my own children. I have been a resident of Trotwood for over 10 years now, and my decision to put my children in Trotwood City Schools was not a casual one. My experiences as a former substitute teacher for Dayton Public Schools and as an adjunct faculty member at UD have informed my understanding of the challenges that teachers face in classroom management, delivery, and learning outcomes. And I consider myself an ally to teachers as I have instilled in my children the importance of self-discipline and academic excellence. I know that no school is perfect, so I tempered my response when my daughter was in the 1st grade and was approached in the bathroom at the ELC and told she could be part of the fashion girls if she took the pill that was being offered to her, and promised her that it would help her lose weight in 1st grade. I was grateful that she told me, and I worked with the teachers and with the school to address the click-ridden environment that my daughter was trying to navigate, all while learning how to count and read. Her journey has continued to have challenges, but again, we've navigated them, understanding that no school is perfect, and her desire to continue going to a school where her friends were was imperative to her. I recognize that research says that the educational system has been designed for the success of students with specific identities, but I didn't expect my son's story to be so different. I admit that his education has been more challenging, as any parent can attest to, that one of the hardest things about parenting is that children do not come with manuals. As difficulties arose in my son's education, my husband and I never lost the lens of our expertise. My husband's 20-year career with working with individuals with developmental disabilities and my knowledge of the statistics of Black men in formal educational environments make a few things difficult. One of those things was accepting that our son may need medication that was attached to a learning disability. As recent as 2016, I'm almost done. As recent as 2016, a study found that Black boys have been misdiagnosed, and mismedicated well above the number of white children. I'll mention some of the issues that he's had, but we've known that tools included not just medicine, but a 504 and an IEP. Since his IEP in 3rd grade, we've known he's had problems with focusing, adapting to change, compulsion with computers, and relationships were essential. Since then, I give you some examples. Teachers sharing with me during parent-teachers conference that they know he's not ready for the next year, so they spent time improving him that. Last year, classes changed during the third week of school without any warning. Again, he was never able to really bounce back from that change. Parent-teachers conferences are structured to critique instead of brainstorming, including a teacher showing me on her personal phone a video of him not doing what he was supposed to do in class, a teacher that I hadn't met until the third quarter. Now, my son has had challenges with the computers, but again, he was placed in a computer class knowing on his IEP that it was documented. His best friend being called Autism Boy because the teacher left his parent on speakerphone when he was talking to her. Being placed in speech when his IEP says that he has problems with eye contact and with speech, and being graded based on that. A counselor last year telling me he had no idea how to support my son and had no suggestions. Teachers not receiving the IEP until November, so I'm bringing a copy of my own. Until even most recently, his math teacher telling him he didn't read it because he looked normal. It's been a long journey, a journey filled with the benefit of the doubt and letting go of the assumptions of what his educational experience should hold. But I leave with you my story hoping not just to share it, but to ask you to do some extreme changes that you would expect for your own children, knowing that adding to something isn't always the change that's necessary, maneuvering isn't always the change, but actually breaking a system and doing something radically different so that no other kid has the experiences that my son has had throughout his education in Trotwood City Schools.
Thank you, Dr. Graham. We appreciate your comments. Mrs. Allen will be handing you a document. If you could fill that out for us, and that way we can get back, respond, and have your contact information. Next item, board report, and this is for discussion. We are looking at making some changes within our committee appointments. The Trotwood Community Improvement Corp., and that's Trotwood CIC. Currently, I know Mr. Howard has served on that committee, and with that committee, originally the intent was to have a board member on that committee, and I know that Mr. Scares has volunteered to accept that appointment. And what the appointment looks like, they meet once a month, about 10 a.m. every last Tuesday, is that correct?
10,
okay.
Last Tuesday a month, yes.
And the Trotwood Community Improvement Corp. is composed of a business leader, as well as the city manager, the mayor.
Right. Some city, other folks that work for businesses in the municipality. So it's a pretty diverse group.
Okay. And again, our role is?
Well, the responsibility was to actively come together and make decisions based on existing properties that are in the city. A lot of the vacant properties, a lot of the former business properties that are available, and that group comes together and ultimately has the directive to make some decisions on what the city is going to do with those properties.
Thank you. Additionally, Mr. Andrews had expressed an interest in being the athletic liaison, and in that role, basically, he would be the bridge.
Provide some updates.
Yes.
I spoke with Mr. Andrews briefly about this, and the framework would just be to provide some updates, provide information to the board, working with myself and through myself, Mr. Russo in the athletic department, just to provide updates to keep the board abreast of some of the things that are going on in athletics.
Because I know we have a lot going on. And Mr. Andrews has been pretty instrumental in being present at most of those athletic events. So that would really keep us in the fold when things are happening. We can get the information in a timely fashion, and so that if any of us can attend, we are welcome to. Thank you. Any questions on those two committee appointments or comments? Next up, treasurer's report.
I have several things this evening. The first one is approval of the meeting minutes from January 9th, 2020, January 16th, 2020, and January 27th, 2020. The next item is an amendment to the appropriation document. And what I've done is I've highlighted the things that were changed. The majority of the changes was because we received extra money, grant money from the Ohio Department of Education. The one that I wanted to call your attention to is I increased Fund 300. We increased that from 300 to 350, only to cover Fund 300, although it includes athletic, it includes other activities. One of the major activities that is going on is the trip to New York. And so we've had to increase the appropriations to cover the bus, to cover some of the other expenditures that she wanted. So I wanted to make sure that appropriation covered those expenditures. They are in the process of fundraising. So the total appropriations for Fund 1 through Fund 599 is $7,633,343.89. If we add the other funds, such as the bond retirement, our permanent improvement, our enterprise funds, trust funds, and agency funds, the total now is $54,608,843.89. And then the last item, item C under 5C, are the documents that are related to the Red Tree proposal. He did include the proposal as the investment advisor. He also had an agreement, advisory agreement that was included, and also the last one, as he talked about, is a U.S. Bank custody agreement, because U.S. Bank would then serve as our third-party custodian of the monies that we move over. So I wanted to include that because when we vote on it for in the next couple of weeks, you'll have that information in front of you. And that's all I had this evening.
Any questions?
And you were increasing the 21st Century Grant, right?
Yes, there was, let's see. The 21st Century Grant, that includes last year's money and this year, because the expenditures that we have to pay from FY19, that's why, because that fund was $379 total, but there were some expenditures that from FY19 that we're paying for in FY20, and that's why it has to be increased.
Okay.
Do we know how much money we have left from the grant, the gift from Springboro City Schools? Just
Not off the top of my head, but we...
Right,
okay,
we do have all that information documented, and we can share that next board meeting, just where we are with those expenditures.
just as a point of reference, I want to make sure that we spend that, and it's not meant to sit.
Okay.
So I just need to.
I'm glad you brought that up, Mr. Scares. And it's in my notes, but I'll say it now. We had the opportunity, Mrs. Angela Bruno, who's doing the New York trip, you guys have said to us that any child that was affected by the tornado, that we would help in certain instances. So she asked, I think there's 4 kids, and we are going to then allot $400 for those 4 kids at $1,600 out of the tornado money, and that was in my report as well. So I was going to report on that when I did my treasurer's report.
Well, I didn't mean to get ahead of you.
That's okay.
I want you to be there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Given that, on the amended appropriations, and you said the district managed student activity was 300 and now it's 350, and you said that there were some additional requests. What were those additional requests? For the New York trip?
For the New York trip, yeah. So I think the bus is like maybe $15,000 or 15 to 20. I just wanted to make sure the appropriation was large enough so that we wouldn't go over. So
What kind of bus they
look
get?
at expenditure.
Do we don't have any school buses?
Well, it's a tour. Now, this is
Tour
just
bus.
a tour company. I should say, not just the bus. It's the tour company.
The whole
So
tour.
the whole tour company. So that includes the bus, all the tours, and blah, blah, blah.
That's a lot of money.
Well,
Is that 50,000? Is that?
no, it's not 50,000 just for that, the choir. I just increased it just a little bit so that we can make sure all of their expenditures from that plus anything under 300 would be covered.
And they're expected to raise that?
Yeah, and they are in the process. I'm not sure what the total trip is going to cost. I think it's $400. Does anybody know?
Yeah, they've taken that trip
I think it's like
the last couple
$400.
of years.
Yes, I think it's $400 per student, so.
They've been actively fundraising. They've got a lot of stuff out in the community, the coupon books, the peelers. So, yeah, they've been actively fundraising. I don't know the exact amount of the trip.
And I know they've gone the last couple of years.
Right.
Yes.
I realize that,
And just-
but I don't ever remember
But,
hearing
and
the
then
cost of that.
Because
Yeah.
they're doing their own.
So they're doing their own fundraiser, so the.
But I mean, in terms of the amendment to the appropriations, I don't remember us having to do an amendment to the appropriations to have to help pay for it.
No, we're not paying for it. What it is you're appropriating for the expenditures. So when they raise the money, we receipt the money, and we put it into their line item, but we still have to account for that. So the district is not putting any money toward the New York trip. They're raising all those funds.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
And I
Ms.
was- sorry, excuse
Go
me.
ahead, Ms.
I was just going to piggyback. I know, and she's going to, I sent her an email today to make sure you guys knew about it, but I'll let you know now. DCDC gave them, I think, 100 tickets for the concert this weekend. And so the tickets are $15 a piece. If they sell 15 of all 100, there'd be $1,500. So DCDC actually gave them that donation, and then eventually it'll come to the board so you guys can approve it. So I did send that out to her to make sure that we would thank our donors for doing that. So they are actively raising the money for the trip, and I think the trip is in May. Is that right? It's in May.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next up, superintendent's report.
Superintendent's item A, all for information this evening. Donations, Madison Park, a check in the amount of $71.70 for Box Tops of Education. Westbrook Village, amount $214 from Life Touch. Trotwood Middle School, donation of $200 from St. Paul Bethlehem Missionary Baptist Church. And district donation of $3,000 to be deposited in Principal's Fund from Walmart. These are all items for information this evening. Okay, Superintendent's item B, requesting review and approval of the activity budget for the middle school student government. Expenses are outlined in the proposal. Activity budget request for the ELC Principals Fund. Purpose and budget statement for athletics. Purpose statement for Madison Parks Principals Fund. Purpose statement for Westbrook Village Principals Fund. Purpose statement for the MH class at the high school. And that concludes the activity budget statements. Superintendent's item C for information is the annual renewal for membership into the Ohio High School Athletic Association. Every year, the school board is asked to review and approve membership to the Ohio High School Athletic Association. And this just details the information and conditions for membership. Superintendent's item D for information is the personnel agenda. Agenda A, 1, recommendation for the approval of supplemental contracts. We're starting to put on the spring sports contracts as we get them, as those coaches are filled for spring sports. B1, recommendation for the approval of following classified employees. B2, additional supplemental contracts. And that concludes the personnel agenda. All of those items, again, are for information.
Any questions?
Just a thought, for the Ohio Athletic Association, what will they provide us since, I mean, what's the benefit now they're kicking us out of the conference?
No, they're not kicking us out of the association.
That's the
That's
GWAC.
the conference.
That's the conference.
Yeah, we're still in the association.
Okay,
The association is the state association.
right,
Yeah, we
right.
just have to, maintain our membership in the association.
In order to
Okay.
play, right?
In order to participate, yeah.
Hmm.
How much does that cost?
I think it's maybe $100 or something. It's not expensive at all. Yeah, it's not expensive. I can get that information for you. I don't think it's more than, I don't know. I'll find out for sure. Follow up with you. Conversation with Mr. Andrews too.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you.
That concludes
Okay.
the report.
Thank you, Mr. Howard. Discussion items and updates. Five Rivers Health Center.
Information from Five Rivers last Wednesday, I believe. You can take mine. Last Wednesday, the management from Five Rivers had a luncheon for our nurses in the district. And one of the initial steps that we're still working through is just the logistical aspect of it. So they met with all of the nurses and the district nurse just to walk them through the process of ensuring and identifying students that may need, not mental health, but health support. So in the event that a student comes to the clinic, identifying some of the things that Five Rivers would be able to help support. And not to say that it was not expected, our just logistical process of just working through all of the logistical hiccups, we're still in that discovery phase. So they met with the nurses, they created this cookbook for them, they provided the information. On next Monday and Wednesday, Tuesday and Thursday of next week, Five Rivers will have a representative at all of the parent-teacher conferences to interact with parents, to interact with students, to interact with staff. We've also got the go-ahead to allow staff members that are not feeling well or up to speed to come over, and based upon their own insurance, which is our insurance, they are able to come over here and be seen as well. So we're starting to make some logistical strides. Transportation is meeting with them tomorrow to work through the process of, if we got a kid over there, if we have a student that needs to be seen, how we get them there and back. So some of those things that we knew were coming about, we're actually starting to put some plans in place and meet with those folks to get that whole process moving. One of their initial issues that they're having is staffing. They're splitting some of their staffing between some of their other facilities, so they're not open at this point Monday through Friday. They've identified some specific hours, but they hope by the end of the month they will have full staffing, and then we can start really engaging in the expected hours and times that we have established for the organization. But they're very receptive. We meet on a consistent basis, and they want to do everything they can to make sure that they're providing the support that we need, and us reciprocating that as well. But it was a great meeting. They fed all of the nurses and just talked them through their cookbook about, if you see a kid, here's kind of what you want to do and how we can support you.
What do the numbers look like along the lines of how many people have actually used the health center?
Right, very low initially. I can get those actual numbers, but not because we're not promoting it. We need to continue to get more information out for the students and the staff. So we're really excited. They're really excited about the parent-teacher conference opportunity. One of the initial hurdles that they believe is the cumbersome amount of paperwork that they have to sign, the parents have to sign off on in order for their kids to get seen. So they're working to try to minimize some of that. The time frame for getting folks, the hope is that they have an opportunity to get some folks to sign up doing parent-teacher conferences and just be a face so people can see them and see that, you know, it's not something new, it's not something that people are trying to get, you know, taken advantage of. It's an actual benefit and resource for the district. And we've you know, partnered with them. We got the information on the website. We're working with the staff. We provided that information to the staff to let staff know. So initially, they want to make sure they connect to the community kids first, our students first, and then open it up to the community. So it's moving, and again, it was anticipated to be a little slow, but we'll look in March to see what other things we need to do if it doesn't pick up from that point.
Can you download this onto the agenda just so that we would have it in electronic form?
Onto the board doc? Okay.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
I did.
That
I was
works for
going
you,
to do
Ms.
that.
Bozeman?
It's a whole lot of pages.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
But could you
Scan it.
Yes, would you
Okay.
please? Yeah.
Okay.
You know what's really nice about the board docs is a quick reference. I mean, we have get so many papers that we can't keep up with them, and this is good information, by the way. I think it covers it covers everything.
So much paper.
So thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Staff and student attendance update, please.
Okay, I provided a additional document to the board on staff attendance and student attendance. I had the secretaries break their student attendance down by building, and attached is the percentage staff attendance percentage by building, certified and classified. Currently 94.82% overall. Initially, our goal several years ago when we had the attendance incentive was either 95 or 96%. So we're not that far off. And as always, there are outliers out there that bring the attendance percentage down. But just for information purposes, these are the attendance percentages per building, and those outliers, those individuals that are, you know, exhibiting those attendance issues, those are the ones that we are collectively, professionally coaching to improve their attendance.
You know, it might be hard to say, but is there any particular thing or any one thing on why the preschool count percentage is so low?
I couldn't tell you specifically. Mr. Warner, can you?
The attendance
percentage at the preschool. Teacher.
It's considerably lower than, I don't know if that's contingent upon how many kids are enrolled, or have you been able to pinpoint any one particular
staff attendance?
Are you talking staff?
No. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at students. I apologize.
Okay.
I apologize.
All right. Okay, yeah.
I apologize. I'm ahead.
I'm like, where's? Okay.
I'm ahead.
Okay.
I got you. Okay. So we'll move to
student
attendance. And this is just a update on the information that I provided to the board in December. Now, great question. So I'll clarify that for you. This initial column, open enrollment and attendance percentage, so it's broken down by different demographic columns. That 76.9% attendance is one student.
Okay.
And at that zero number, that student is no longer with the district.
Okay.
So at the time the student was with the district, that 76.9% attendance was one open enrolled student.
Okay.
And if you look at each of the highlighted columns, you can see one of the things that I don't want to say concern, but has been a point of discussion is our open enrollment attendance percentage. So these are students that come into the district on open enrollment and are expected to get into the district on their own, and we can see what that number is doing to our attendance percentage. Great to see that our parents of district employees, their attendance is high. Homeless students, which is also a point of concern, but you know, at 90.2% versus the open enrolled students, Non-residential students, it identifies what those mean, most specifically the students that are placed in foster homes or placed in homes for other various reasons. Residential students, 98%. Total number count, and this number is a minor reduction. We've lost a few students from the last report I gave you guys in December, but still at 2656, it is an increase from where we were last year. And then all student attendance percentage at 91.2. Our goal is 93. So we are continuing to actively address that. One of the, again, points that we really have to look at is that, do we have an understanding at this point initially that these open enrolled students with that attendance percentage, how, because this is a new process and a new program, how do we address that directly to help those young people improve that attendance percentage? And then our McKinney-Vento students, there are several times, there's been several occasions where we have even gone to homes to pick up kids, and they even not come out, they're no longer living there. So we're dealing with some of that aftermath of some of the, some of the things that we kind of anticipated. So they have created some additional concerns, but to say the least, we're still at 91.2, and we've got to work our way to get up to 93%.
Thank you for the way you did a deep dive into the numbers and where the deltas are and speaking to the why. So this is information that we as board members can share, and we have that information when we're talking to, people at the state or wherever about what impacts our attendance, the homeless, and and that we're looking at the open enrollment to see if they're showing up, because at some point, if they're just not showing up, then we're not benefiting the student nor ourselves.
Right, and you can see with open enrollment, first of all, I want to give credit to Marnie Ferris and Lisa for helping put this information together. We worked on this, and it's been in the other reports as well, but we just want to make it as accurate as possible. But you can see where the concentration of your open enrollment students are 7th and 9th grade, those transitional years. And then you look at your 8th grade open enrollment percentage, and you're at 83%. So, those are some of the additional numbers that we have to dig into to see, you bring your kids to our district, we open our doors up to you, we got to figure out why you're not coming. So those are some of the things we won't put those attendance coordinators on.
And this might be a question for the attorneys. If a child is here under open enrollment and then they miss so many days, or for whatever reason, we can't get in contact with them, I don't know if we can put in policy or not as a restriction or as a consequence. Maybe removal from the district just for those particular open enrollment students. I don't know, maybe we can ask the lawyer if that's something that we can do.
Absolutely, and Mrs. Love Allen has worked on a open enrollment process that I'm going to share with the policy committee, just to kind of touch bases on some of those issues. We understand, because it's in our face, the data is there, that we have some kids that are open enrolled in our district that are not coming. So we do, legally, we have to make sure that we cover ourselves as well. And again, that would be something that, after we have a conversation in policy committee, I'll present it to the committee so you guys can take a look at it.
Because it is a bit of a two-edged sword. We don't want to cut our nose off to spite our face. But if these kids aren't showing up,
they're not learning in the end. They show up on the test.
Absolutely.
That's just the way it is. It's true.
Okay.
But if you look, though, too, our resident students and the percentages for our open enroll, they're all 6th through 12th grade are about the same percentage. They're only off like 1%.
That's true.
So then as to get the data, then it's like, what kind of intervention, well, what kind of positive support we give them to come to school, you know?
The high school has some really progressive incentive plans that are going on now, and Mr. McCray can maybe speak to that one day. But you know, you really have to, because I get kind of, I don't want to get caught up on my words, because you know there's some things that you, like Mr. Scare said, you know, it's almost a double-edged sword sometimes, because you offer kids alternative program, and Mrs. Love Allen's going to talk about that here in a second. You offer them alternative program because they're having attendance issues, but then, you know, you got 17 and 18-year-old kids that just throw their hands up to it and don't come. So we've got to continue to formulate progressive strategies to try to reach some of these kids, because you know, we can't connect with them and we can't teach them if they're not here.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Howard.
No problem.
Okay, next up, we have Treasurer.
Well, we had.
I'm sorry, alternative school update, I'm sorry.
Right. Ms. Love Allen.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Just looking at the overview of our alternative programming, as of February the 4th, currently we're offering 4 different platforms, if you will, for alternative programs. We have the PEAK program, which is grades 6 through 8. Graduation Alliance is for grades 9 through 12. Our Back on Track Credit Recovery program, which is through the program known as APEX for grades 9 through 12, as well as the option for Miami Valley Youth Connections, which is grades 6 through 12. So right now, our PEAK program, which again is at the middle school, currently has 10 students, Graduation Alliance. That number just changed as of yesterday. We had a graduate yesterday, so we're down to 26. Back on Track, 22, and Youth Connections is at 2. So instead of that number being 61, it's actually 60 students. And to talk about the PEAK program before I kind of go into the rest of this, our PEAK program is primarily used in lieu of out-of-school suspensions. So we try to keep the kids in the building and provide this education for them in an alternative setting. So right now we have about 2 students that have completed the program, and they did it in lieu of an expulsion. Also, we have 2 that actually are completing that have completed the program, and 5 students are currently in the building in a similar in-school suspension type setting, an alternative setting, and then 5 are currently at home. And then looking at Grad Alliance, like I said, we just had another graduate. I got notice of that yesterday. So we currently have 26 students, and so now 5 of them have met their graduation requirements. 15 of them are still on track to graduate. 11 of them are doing it, when that says internal, it's kind of like a little bit of a misnomer because we have 2 tiers. So we have a Tier 3 and a Tier 4. Tier 3, those students, they do receive the education online. However, their coach is within the building. So Mr. Richardson serves as one of their, we could say, academic coach. So they come in between once and twice a week, and they work with him on their coursework. And then when they have final exams, of course, like state exams as well as exams through Grad Alliance, they come in and work with him on that. So we have 11 students that are Tier 3, and then we have 13 that are Tier 4. And that's when they are completely out of the building, and their program is totally managed through Grad Alliance. So Grad Alliance assigns them the academic coach. Their teachers are totally through Grad Alliance. They're completely independent of the school outside of still being a Trotwood-Madison student. Where
are they? So are those the students that are working at home?
Yes. Now, the Grad Alliance students, Tier 4, they're completely at home, and they do meetups, and all of that is completely separate from the building. Usually, the only time we see them is once we get the notification that they've met graduation requirements, and then they may come in and meet with their counselor, because they still have a guidance counselor that's assigned to them, and they may come in and meet with their counselor to verify that they've met all graduation requirements, and if there's any other things they need to do to make sure that they're completely prepared for graduation. But Tier 4, they're totally out of the building. Tier 3, they come in periodically. Back on track, and that is, again, our credit recovery. So that's primarily designed for students that are 4 or more credits behind or deficient. Right now, we have 22 students that are within that program, and that is housed in the high school. 2 of them have already met their graduation requirements. We have 1 that's on track, and they're all internal. So like I said, that program is totally housed within the high school. And we have Miami Valley Youth Connections. So we have 2 students that are there, and Youth Connections is primarily designed for students that just kind of need a change of venue in a way. They are pretty much self-driven. They don't need a whole lot of motivation, but they still need some guidance, and they don't have behavior issues, but sometimes they're just the kids that don't fit in a traditional school setting. So right now we have 2 students within Youth Connections. So overall, I think our programs are going well. A couple insights and a couple things to speak to Mr. Howard's point about attendance. Our Back on Track program has, 18, 19-year-olds. I think at one point we even had a 20-year-old. And 13 of those students that are 18 years old or older, and 4 of them are actually turning 18 this month and in March, their attendance is waning. So that's a point of concern for me as one that has to monitor and look at school attendance and trying to work with the attendance specialists, trying to figure out what to do, because when they're 18, that's when they become a kind of weird spot because they're technically an adult. So the whole truancy thing goes out the window, and you're trying to find other ways to motivate them to come to school, especially when they're already in an alternative program. But a positive note is, we do have students that are graduating through Grad Alliance, and I get a lot of calls from parents both in and outside of the district seeking alternative education options. So, that's something that I've brought up to Mr. Howard about having a further discussion on how we can open that up, because this is the world we live in. Colleges, they offer online classes, and I'm one of those people that personally I'd rather go through an online class because I can do it when and how I want to, and I don't necessarily have to hit the road on a day like today. I can just bust open the laptop and get the work done. So that's a conversation that, continues to need to be had, but I think that would be an attractive option for us as a district if we were to continue to move in that direction. So that is not necessarily for students that are credit deficient, but it's just an option. It's just another way of learning. So that pretty much summarizes my report, if you guys have any questions.
The peak grades 6 through 8, how long are they in that?
It varies. Mr. Gibson and I usually talk about, especially for the students that are assigned to peak as a result of an in lieu of expulsion, he and I usually talk about how long that is. So we look at how many days would I be recommending for an expulsion if I was going to expel or recommend expulsion. But we try not to have them in less than 2 weeks because it's pointless at that point. So they need to be in the program 2 weeks or more.
So they go back to the regular class?
Some of them do. Like, for instance, I had 2 young men that instead of going through expulsion, they completed peak at home. So they were assigned the Chromebook, and they got online and they did the work throughout that time that they would have been expelled. So they didn't miss any classwork. And then when they returned back to the building, they returned back to the classroom. So it was, a different way of learning, but they were out for a little while. But some of the students that are in the building, theirs is based on their situation. Some of them is longer than others because they just are struggling in the classroom setting.
So I would definitely agree with you because I'm the online type of person.
Yeah.
I guess my question would be, if we offered, not as an alternative program, not as just an alternative program, but just an online option, period. Does that technically increase enrollment?
I would, well, can I?
If there are
I would say that it is, right.
If they're in our ADM.
Yes. And there are districts around that are doing that, so that's why I said, in speaking with Mr. Howard, I just think it would be an attractive option.
Does it cost a lot to run an online program? I mean, in your opinion?
I think it's cost effective. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but I think if we have to weigh it out, we would probably almost end up saving because you're not transporting kids. So, your transportation costs may even start to decrease because instead of putting that kid on the bus, they're opening up a laptop, so it's cheaper to loan out a laptop than it may be to get another bus on the road. So I don't know, it's just, and I'm one that I know of other school districts where they assess a fee for the service, so then it could also be a revenue stream.
Do you know what some of those districts are that are doing it actively, that are not just alternative?
Vandalia Butler is one. Centerville is another. So they offer these as options.
Just their regular everyday high school classes? Okay.
And I know for certain Vandalia's fee is $75 per semester. So a parent would just pay that as a student fee, and then and they actually use Grad Alliance.
So they pay the student fee, plus the school district would get the resources because of the student?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
And one thing I also do want to add is that, the attendance, it's not all just being defiant or, we've actually got some of these kids. I know there's one kid, Mr. McCray and I were talking about yesterday. He has actually a full-time job at Fouillon.
That's true.
And, his attendance is
Right.
sometimes, harboring on whether or not, he's going to work that day. So, it's just looking from a different lens when it comes to, how we address some of these.
I mean, I completely agree. I mean, I didn't get a degree until I had the online option. I flunked out of UC, I flunked out of Sinclair because I just couldn't get up and go. And I think that presents a really good opportunity for us. That I think the profit margin there would be, in terms of what something like that might cost to run, plus the increase in enrollment, and then whatever fees that we can attach to offer the luxury of it. I think that would be something that we should heavily consider, especially if there's already a prototype out there of districts that are already doing it.
True. Yeah.
Well, we have an upcoming retreat.
Okay.
Maybe we can look at some strategic planning in lieu of, again, offering other options and
Right.
access.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's really good. Thank you. Okay, now next item.
Okay, so I am on the treasurer's comments under the content. I did attach the treasurer's update for February 6th. Just a couple things I wanted to bring to your attention. We're still working through the FY19 audit. There are some issues that we are still going back and forth with the auditors, that we feel one way and they feel another. So we're working through that. There probably will be a post-audit meeting probably by the end of February. So the auditors will let the board know about that. I did receive an email, I think Marlon received it as well, that we were awarded $123,750, and it's called Immediate Aid to Restart Food Operations. So this was a while back, Ms. Minor and Mr. Howard and I sat there and applied for this grant, and they gave us 75% of what we asked for. And basically, they couldn't give us all of it because there were so many other people, the tornadoes, and there was another catastrophe that happened. So they had to spread the wealth. So we did get $123,000. There are things attached to it. This is very, very restricted. One of the items said reasonable transportation cost. So we had bought a van and we are going to then provide documentation on the transportation costs that we incurred because of the tornado. So hopefully, I'm not sure if that'd be $123,000, but if we could do the $123,750 just in that area, we would be fine. But they want us to provide documentation on this, how we spent this $123,000. So we can kind of revamp what we spent, if that makes sense. And then, as I mentioned, the $400 to be paid for Miss Bruno's musical venture. And then there was a couple other upcoming meetings and events that I'm involved in. So that was on my report. The next thing I wanted to just let the board know is that there are going to be some opportunities to raise money for the state football championship rings. Two of the options that were proposed, one through the Dayton Foundation, they have a free charitable funding account that we set up and that anyone can go online and donate money toward the rings. The bogey for the rings was determined by the high school athletic director and the principal to be $20,000. The other areas, SNAP raise, and what they're going to have the children to do now is to have some skin in the game, and they will also be raising money for the rings. And so they will be challenged. They're going to have a meeting next week, I think. I'm not sure when it is. They're going to be challenged to each raise, I think it's $300 a piece. So that would then cut down on the $400 that it costs per ring. So if every kid at least tried to get $250, that would cut down substantially, and that would be probably like 70% of what should be raised. So I wanted the board to know that, just in case someone from the community asks you guys about that. So the athletic director will be sending out information. We also were going to put that link and some more information on the website.
And do we know of any of those kids directly impacted by the tornado?
We did ask that, and they are looking at that. We did, at the meeting, we did ask that, and we said if we could identify those kids, then that they could potentially get their ring paid out from the tornado fund.
Absolutely.
So, and I think that's what you guys had agreed to.
Yep. And we know for two for sure, there were two of the brothers that were featured that lost their house, and they were going to investigate the rest of this.
And then the last thing I just wanted to say to the board is that your board president is going to be honored at the Ohio School Board's meeting, the Southwest Regional meeting, and we want you, everyone has one of these. We need for you to let us know if you're going to attend that event, so that we can get the table, pay for the table early, so that we won't be sitting way in the back. Okay, so if you just get right on here and you can give it back to me tonight, and Kim then will make those arrangements. And congratulations to Miss Denise Moore for her 15-year anniversary recognition.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So that's all I have.
15 years. Thank you.
Just tell you we're going, or are we supposed to fill the back of this out?
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, this is...
Yeah, just tell us that you're going, and then we'll fill out the rest of it, okay? It starts at 5, networking, and it's at the Warren County Career Center, and the welcome's at 5:30, and it adjourns at 8. And there is dinner at 6 o'clock.
What's the date?
March the 10th, Tuesday, March 10th.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. Mr. Howard?
Thank you. I've provided my superintendent's update for the month of February. Just some highlights from that. Wanted to point out that we were working with Sinclair Community College and their media department. They provided the Black History trivia link to all of our teachers and everyone in the district, and I shared that with the staff on Monday. Created by students at Sinclair and narrated by former Trotwood-Madison employee Michael Carter. Just has a litany of African American history trivia and information that can be an additional resource. I've also provided in the dates and times of all of the Black History programs in the buildings. So if you are able to attend, please feel free to. I've highlighted those in each section per building. And then finally, I was able to secure 2 students as of this afternoon to serve as board representatives. 2 of the students, one young lady was going to be the representative last year, and she would like to do it again, but she can most likely only make it 1 meeting a month. So I want the board to consider that. It would probably maybe be the public meeting if that's your pleasure. The other young lady had committed and said that she was interested, and she actually made an outreach to myself and I think maybe a couple of board members. But today, this afternoon at about 5 o'clock, right before the meeting, she told me due to her senior commitments, she could no longer serve on the board. So just from the conversation I had, we have 1, and her anticipated start date would be with the board the next meeting on the 20th. And the other young lady has had to pull out based upon some senior commitments. So I can actively go and try to pursue another one, but by that time it may be March. So, we can work with this one young lady or we can keep forward. That's all I have.
Thank you.
And again, the update it is a live document, so as dates and times, and if I see a grammatical error or something, I change it, so I will share it with you guys via Google Doc, but it is a live document.
Thank you.
No problem.
Board comments, Mr. Scares?
Thank you. So I did have the opportunity, I meet with a group of evangelical leaders every quarter with the governor, and we met on Monday. And I did bring up to him some of the concerns that we have surrounding the Ed Choice vouchers. So good news, kind of bad news. As of today, or maybe yesterday, Ed Choice is no longer, the bill was passed that Ed Choice is no longer an option. However, the voucher will be dependent upon, instead of school performance, it'll be based on family income, so the argument around was nobody raised any sand about Ed Choice until it, negatively affected districts that were more affluent, say that. And so now the state legislature has found a way to still offer Ed Choice, just disguising it as the Buckeye opportunity, and it now solely affects families that fall within particular income, which would hurt districts that are not as affluent. So we kind of still kind of at the same point. So the governor is expected to sign that if he has not signed it already, and that is an update that I have for you.
Thank you.
Since it's also my turn, we had our Southwest Regional meeting last night, and a lot of the members were coming back from the federal relations meetings in Washington, D.C., and the OSBA new president was also there, so he gave that same update. He said what they changed was it went from, for the Ed Choice, they took the rating, the report card rating off, but they went from 200 to, he thought,
300
to 250% poverty level. So for the school district, I thought, and not so much the families. I'm not sure. But the Senate was supposed to vote today. The House had passed it.
The Senate did pass it.
Okay, they passed it. And on the Academic Distress Commission, they have put in a sundown clause, so Youngstown and those 3, East Cleveland.
Lorraine.
Right, and Marine. As of July, they'll be offered under the academic distress.
Did that pass?
That is supposed to be effective in July.
So that passed and it would be effective?
Right, it did.
Until 2024.
Right.
After 2024, they're going to revisit ADC in that whole
Of course.
process. But the proposal is
Yeah.
a moratorium until 2024.
Right.
And then
And-
those other districts will, they're.
Right, because there were just too many on that there's no way you had an academic distress for all of those. So those schools are supposed to fall back under the local control of the school board.
That's good.
The other thing is, last week I was having a really stressful day, left the high school with my mentee. So I went to our ELC to the sensory room. And I just had a ball. Got to play in the balls? No, I didn't. But if you haven't had a chance to go over, it is one that I think we should look at highlighting and profiling for OSBA. It is really, really nice. And I didn't know that our students actually get a sensory plan. So when you walk outside the door, they have the little things out there, and they have the students and what they're going in for. They've got this thing with these great big bands on it where the student can roll his or her whole body through it. They have the little igloos set up with little lights in it. There was a student sitting in there. They have a massage chair it's nice.
I think we need a field trip.
I took my field trip.
Can we get one in the board office?
Yeah, we need one.
Now, our intention was to put that in our other elementaries too.
You have it?
You have it
That
too?
was Madison Park.
Okay, I wasn't sure. So I need to stop by Madison Park. And I think that's about all that I have. Oh, I am attending the board workshop at ESC on Saturday.
Ms. Bozeman?
I don't have any comments.
Okay. Now, I'm really surprised, and I'll tell you why. Where were we at? We were at a meeting earlier.
Yeah.
Did you want to share?
No, go ahead.
Mr. Howard, I don't know what's going on with the robocall, but it's going crazy.
We addressed that. Yeah, we had a glitch in the system, and for some reason the call would duplicate the number. Right, and we
Over and over and
right,
over and over.
you're right. So we were working directly with the proprietor of that, and we believe we found out what was going on. So we received calls as well from parents with regards to that. So we think we got that fixed.
I think sitting in the meeting,
In the meeting, I was like, oh my gosh.
Here we go.
Here it is again.
High school
Here's again.
PTO.
Here's again. Oh my gosh.
It's a high school PTO.
It was
call.
for the dance or
Yeah,
something.
PTO, high school PTO call.
Yeah.
For some reason I don't know what happened.
Just a little hiccup there,
Yeah.
right? Also, I want to ask, are we involved in the Complete Count 2020 census?
We are involved from the aspect of we have the flyers and the information. We're going to be posting that on our website and sending it home electronically not sending it home electronically, sending it home with the students and then posting it on our social media platforms and our webpage as well. I've worked. I can't remember the lady's name. She sent all the information, and we're doing the simultaneous things that all the rest of the school districts are. She kind of gave us an outline of what districts are doing, and we're going to follow through with those aspects.
Okay, thank you. I know the count begins April 1st. Is that correct? Okay. In addition to that, I just want to say thank you for being here tonight with us. You could have been anywhere yet, and still you're here on a night like tonight, so thank you. And thank you for the work that you guys are doing in the building, principals. We appreciate you, and we appreciate your attendance here tonight as well. And I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I will be coming to the sensory rooms, all right? And checking that out. Mr. Howard, thanks for the report. Very in-depth. Love the color coding, Ms. Minor, as well. good information, and I think if we just make sure that we stay on top of what we need to do, we can draw folks into the health center.
Yeah, I think our biggest, just hurdles, we're just trying to figure out how to, get it going.
Get it started,
get it going.
jump started.
Exactly. And while Mr. Scarce is down there sneezing, I do want to let the board know that this weekend, on Sunday, we will be bringing all the custodians in, and we are going to deep sanitize all of the buildings.
Because I sneezed?
It just, you triggered that.
Thanks a lot.
So all the custodians will be in this weekend with some of the things that are going on in other districts. I just wanted to let you guys know that if you see some activity.
Flu is running rampant.
Absolutely.
There are a lot of kids that are sick. There are a lot of kids that are in the hospital. So we appreciate that. Thank you. Good report, Ms. Allen, for the consultant, Red Tree. Appreciate that. And again, we'll have an opportunity to read through the contracts and all the verbiage, and we'll probably have some questions based on that. But I'm glad that Ryan could come out and share with the board exactly what it is we're doing and why. Other than that, that is it for me. No other comments, okay? While I was talking, my computer went dead, so Ms. Bozeman? All right. I now need a motion to move into executive session for resolution for the consideration of appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official, or the investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual per Board of Education Policy 0166 and ORC 121.22 G1, and B, to discuss details relative to the security arrangements and the emergency response protocols for a public body or public offer per ORC 121.22 G6. Official action may be taken.
So moved.
A second.
It's been properly moved, and we have a second. Any questions? Being none, Ms. Allen, will you call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Scarce?
Yes.
Mrs. Gino Freeman?
Yes.
Mrs. Bozeman?
Yes.
And Ms. Moore?
Yes. We will now adjourn into executive session.
I'd like to ask Mr. McCray to join us for the first.
Oh, absolutely. Okay.